and other minerals. Although most of the men and women on board ran the ship, the most important persons were the geologists, chemists, and computer technicians who operated the seismic generators, gravity survey equipment, sonars, chemical analysis laboratories, and other high-tech systems. The objective of their 5 months on site was just being laid out in front of the captain, project manager, chief engineer, and chief geologist, and simultaneously transmitted to officials at Petrolymix in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and the Lady Garner's headquarters in Long Beach.
"Good evening, everybody,"
said Gary Boudrein, the project manager, into the video teleconference camera. Boudrein was a big man from Louisiana with deep wrinkles on his weathered face, the result of over 30 years at sea all over the world.
"I'm Gary Boudrein, the project manager aboard the Lady Garner survey ship, on station in Sector 27 in the South China Sea. With me is the chief geologist, chief engineer, chief chemist, and, of course, Captain Victor Richardson. I trust everyone has received the traffic light map."
Heads nodded on the ship and on the video teleconference screen. The Petrolymix officials were smiling broadly, and that made Boudrein feel very good.
"We have good news. It looks like we have a good cluster, and my team and I recommend dropping an exploratory well."
He hit a button on his laptop computer, and the image on the screen changed to a map of a section of the South China Sea with hundreds of green and red dots on it. This was the product of their 5 months at sea, the Common Risk Segment Map, known as the Traffic Light Map. The green dots indicated a good chance for oil and gas, and red dots for poor areas. There were several clusters of green dots. Those were their objectives.
"There haven't been too many surveys of the South China Sea in recent years due to the political and economic turmoil," Boudrein went on, "especially around the Spratly Islands, but I'm pleased to say our mission here is a big success. We are sitting atop one of the largest clusters of good potential oil and gas deposits I've seen outside of the Middle East, perhaps as much as 1 billion barrels of oil and 75 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in this one sector alone."
Boudrein didn't think the oil executives' smiles could get any broader, but they did.
"We have every reason to believe neighboring sectors contain similar deposits, based on the geography. My project staff unanimously agrees to strongly recommend drilling an exploratory well to verify our findings."
The video teleconference didn't last too much longer. It was clear the Petrolymix executives were anxious to share the news with their superiors in the oil and gas ministry of the Vietnamese Politburo. Boudrein and his staff answered a few questions about their findings and the next step, and the conference was terminated.
"I think you kicked a home run, Gary,"
Victor Richardson said. The captain was born in Norway, and even though he had lived in the United States for almost 10 years as skipper of the Lady Garner, he was still getting American cultural references mixed up.
"I usually don't like to use such definitive terms, Skipper," Boudrein said. "Remote geological surveying is an inexact science at best, and dropping an exploratory well in these waters could cost Petrolymix upwards of $50 million, but what we found here is truly extraordinary. Lots of us believed the South China Sea had vast deposits of all kinds of minerals, but this is the first real indication that it could be true."
"Gratulerie and Gary," the skipper said.
"Congratulations again. I'm going to check in with the watch on the bridge, and then I'm going to turn outwards. Good night."
He shook hands with the rest of Boudrein's staff, then departed. The Lady Garner was one of the most high-tech survey ships in the world, and the bridge reflected this. It took only 2 men to stand watch on the bridge, and just 4 when underway. There was still a wheel, throttle levers, and a large compass on the main console, and they were all operable if needed, but steering, propulsion, and all other major functions were now controlled by computer. In the darkness of the bridge, with the only illumination coming from the dimmed computer screens, the captain couldn't make out the faces of the watchstanders, but he knew these men almost as well as his own 6 children.
"How are you boys doing tonight, Todd, Mac?" Richardson asked.
"Very well, Captain," the officer of the deck, Todd Clark, replied. Clark was a recent graduate of the California Maritime Academy in Vallejo, California. This was only his second cruise in the Lady Garner, but he was an exceptional seaman and doing well. All systems normal. Station keeping is running at 25% of capacity. The survey vessel used a sophisticated set of thrusters under the ship to keep itself precisely in place. It could keep the massive vessel within a few dozen yards, even in gale force winds and heavy seas. Whether it's